All right, well, there's nothing I love more than sitting around the table with friends and having good conversations. And so we're inviting you into that conversation today as we're talking about loud is not a language. And Brandon and Anita are joining us today, and they're going to share some things that they've received from just the principles in the book, and share some stories with you. So 2 blueprints are in the book. One is internal, where we need to be aligned in order to step into the conversation, and the other one is just principles to operate once you're in the conversation. First one that's internal is the pull up a chair. And so that's, pull up a chair, let's have a conversation like we're going to do right now. I want to hear what you're saying. And so in order to do that, the chair stands for courage, humility, authenticity, integrity, and respect. And so I'm going to start with you, Anita, because you had something that in that chair that stood out to you with the humility piece.
Yes.
Yeah, I want you to share that.
Well, that was humility I'm very attracted to. That's a quality I'm very attracted to. And I found that was lacking in me when I needed to have courageous conversations or bold conversations or even uncomfortable conversations. And so I found that when I needed to enter into a conversation with the topic that I was very unfamiliar with, topics like political topics, cultural topics that are trending in the news right now where people have different views, I felt like my ideas were the ideas and others were subpar. And I needed to wait for them to get it, And then when I began to enter into the conversation with humility, it actually helped me recognize, wow, there's a reason for why they believe what they believe. Whether it's their own or a family decision, but there's a reason for it. And it quieted the loudness in me. Yeah. It quieted the volume in me that it switched me from thinking, I'm going to let them talk and then they're going to hear my side. And that'll change. And then that'll change their mind. And it quieted that proud narrative that I had in my head. And so humility, when I stepped into the conversation, it wasn't even about, I hope they hear me. It was more so, I hope I hear why they believe what they believe.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Because, yes, I used to, armor up.
Yeah.
Going into a conversation where I knew they didn't agree, had all my reasons for why I was right. And it just doesn't work.
Right.
We go into a conversation like that.
Yeah.
And so loud. You mentioned how did you say that? I loved how you said that.
Well,
Should have jotted it down.
Humility quieted down the loudness in me.
Yeah. So that thing that rises up inside of us that wants to just be right, be in control,
oh man,
look good, say all the right things, all that. Yeah. So loud. I just want to clarify for anybody that just thinks it's volume, because it's a lot more than volume, right?
And it is.
It's attitude. Sometimes volume's great, like the Rangers are in the World Series. That's a good loud. But, the loud we're talking about is attitude. And it's that attitude that either shuts people down, shuts people out, silences them, or shames them. And we can do that to ourselves too. We can have that attitude toward ourselves too. So I like when you said that about the loud. And I like the proud narrative. We have those. I've never heard it put that way. We have those proud narratives. Not proud of having those proud narratives.
Right. But I want to own that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
the beauty of it is, we don't have to agree with somebody in order to really understand them and really get to the point where we can say, oh, of course you see the world that way. Of course you feel that way or believe this or that, right?
Yeah.
And really, the agreement is not what matters. It's that humility and having that willingness to connect and see the world from somebody else's point of view.
Yeah, because agreement really doesn't have any influence, does it? Like when you think about it, agreement doesn't have any influence. They already think like we do anyway. But when you understand somebody that we don't agree with, and they know we understand them,
Right.
well, there's some influence there.
Right.
That builds some bridges. I love that.
It builds trust.
It does. It builds trust bridges that go so far beyond anything that I have ever thought that I would have built a relationship with, any people that have perspectives as different as me. Because we tend to build relationships with people that think like us.
Right.
And to do differently,
Right.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is. You had some things with the chair that stood out to you as well. I think it was the integrity piece, right?
The integrity piece. And to some extent, it ties into the courage, right? So for me, I really struggled with coming to a hard conversation with integrity where I was kind of separate from whoever I was talking to. So a lot of times I would tend to take on somebody else's feelings and and it would make me feel responsible to have to fix it or have to try to make it better. And that actually limited my ability to be truly present.
That's big.
It's huge. And it also challenged me with the courage aspect, because when you take on somebody else's stuff, it becomes really heavy. And then you start kind of avoiding hard conversations because you don't want to carry that. Right?
Wow. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And I love that about you, because that is who you are. I probably
100%.
because the integrity piece for me was I would go into conversations with an agenda. I wouldn't go in and go, oh, how do you feel? Let me take that on. Which you naturally do. And I love that awareness of that. And how not doing that lets you be more present with them. Man, that's so big.
When you aren't able to stay in your integrity in those hard conversations and you start owning somebody else's stuff, you actually move from connection to enmeshment. And and the reason for that is because you have to be a separate whole person in order to truly connect with somebody. And when you start owning what's not yours and taking on somebody else's stuff and trying to solve it, then you start kind of merging together and you're not actually able to truly connect.
I've never heard it put that way. Really, I haven't heard it put that way, but it makes so much sense.
It does.
Yeah.
So as I've been able to own my separateness and still being able to have the courage to see somebody else's perspective, but not own their thoughts, feelings, and actions and take responsibility for it, I've actually been able to be really present and bring me to the conversation instead of trying to figure out how to fix whatever's going on. So
That's really good.
It is.
I just really like that. And I'm really blown away that that's how you went into conversations, because I literally would go in with an agenda of, like I said, armored up,
Yeah.
And so that integrity piece for me was check your motivations for why you're entering the conversation. Be sure that you're entering it for the right reasons. So I was shocked at how many times I wasn't. I mean, I didn't realize it, So when you have something that you can examine and you can realize it, it's like, this.
Yes.
Okay, I got to go back to the chair. I got to go back to the chair.
That's right. Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's so powerful, Brenda, because, when you approach that with that conversation with an agenda, it ends up being manipulative.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
I'm in grad school to be a counselor,
Yes.
right? And that's part of the awareness that we have to develop, because if I go into a conversation with a client with an agenda, that's actually unethical, because I'm imposing my own values
That's so
and
good.
beliefs onto somebody else who is maybe in a vulnerable position. And my agenda has to be to help them find their own voice and their own values and beliefs and bring that out. So
It's good. That is good stuff. So yeah, so let's go back to the chair with we step into those conversations. We need the courage, really the courage to be able to lay down our agenda, the courage to be able to go, I see where this conversation can go. I see that if I really step into it, even though I'm anxious or, what, or angry or whatever,
Right.
I see where it could go. That with the humility, authenticity, like being you didn't say the word, but that's what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
absolutely.
Just
Right.
being
Present,
fully
yeah.
you and present. Yeah, not taking on their stuff.
Yeah.
And integrity. And then the respecting somebody who doesn't hold your opinions. Like,
Right.
talk about enmeshment. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
how many of us have enmeshment with the person as the opinion they hold?
Oh yeah.
And that's not true either. That's not true at all. So, so yeah, getting into that place and being sure we're like tightly and rightly aligned with
Right.
the chair thing
Yeah.
lets us be able to step into conversation, which
Yeah.
which then goes into the dismantling of the word loud, and where we listen, own, understand, and develop new ways to move forward. So that listening piece, how has that had anything different since reading it with you? Have you
Yes.
thought of that? Okay.
I have thought of that. And I should state that I read your book on vacation, and I broke one of my own rules because I never read on vacation. that's just a criteria for Anita.
I'm honored.
I know. You crossed the threshold. So, so it's exciting to just honor even this part of the journey, knowing that I stepped into something that was already like, I don't do that. I don't read on vacation. And then the revelations that came. So the listening piece, I saw that play out with even just the type of work that I do. I'm a lobbyist. I live in DFW, and then I live in Austin. We have to enter into hard conversations. And then as a lobbyist, I go in with an agenda.
Yes. Ooh,
I'm supposed to,
yes.
right?
It's part of the job.
It's part of the job. But it's been so amazing to even be able to go in with an agenda, but have a part of the conversation that lets the person on the other side of the table hear me say, I also want to hear how I can be a resource for you. So now I'm going to be quiet and listen. When you see the
And mean
looks and mean it, and I'm not walking out until you tell me how I can be a resource to you. The looks on the faces of those in this line of work, they go, oh, I don't.
Doesn't compute.
It's been awesome to say, I have my notes, like I have my tablet and I have my pen, and I say, so I want to know how I can be a resource to you. And they're, can we get back to you on that? Like we hadn't thought of that. Sure. I mean,
They were not expecting that question.
not expecting that. And so it's just been beautiful and life-changing for me to be able to be one person and encompass an agenda that says, I know that I'm here to lobby for this. Simultaneously, I need to know how I can help you. So I want to listen. And so that's been
really good.
Yeah.
That's something that they don't see very often.
Right.
Which helps build respect.
Absolutely.
And they
Yes.
trust you.
Right.
It builds those trust bridges.
And you know what's amazing is, so when I leave those offices, I've been pretty consistent to send thank you emails to the offices that we have conversation with. And I mean offices that we have kindred values and offices where we don't have kindred values. And I keep sending thank you emails. And my mindset is they're not really going to read this thank you email because they have so many emails in their inbox. But when they reply and say, thank you for sending this. And I always like to say, thank you for your gift of time. Like for me, it's a big deal that you're allotting me these 15 minutes to come and talk to you. Like, I don't want to be remiss about that. I don't want to dismiss that. We are all very busy in our work when we're at this, this Capitol building. And so, but when they reply and say, thank you for your thank you, and so it's about building bridges, and it's relationship building.
It is.
It is. I think it's relationship building.
Yeah.
And
This kind of gets you thinking about relationships in a different way.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, listen, own any of that you
Yeah.
wanna that stood out to you.
Yeah, for me, listening without the agenda of looking for problems to solve and just listening with curiosity to understand has really transformed things for me because, I'm a problem solver. I've been in the tech industry for 12
Right,
years.
this techie guy is now going to be a licensed professional counselor. So
Wild
slash
life change.
bodybuilder.
So, I've always, built a career like looking for problems to solve. And if I go into a conversation looking for problems to solve, I miss things,
Wow.
right? I miss important context. I miss things that a lot of times I just miss the why behind a lot of the problems, which gives me context for the root may be actually other things, not the thing that's like where there's smoke, right?
Right,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
And so,
Yeah.
so approaching conversations just with curiosity, just like, hey, teach me, tell me about your business, tell me about what's going on, and instead of being laser focused on finding problems, has really transformed things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
It
good.
gives people a freedom to share things they would not otherwise maybe even think to share.
So true. Absolutely.
And
Just
they
that-
sense that you're a safe place.
Yeah.
People need those safe places, especially in this culture.
Right.
Absolutely.
Heart challenges. Have there been any heart challenges? I had a lot of heart challenges just writing this, so I'm just curious. Have you had any heart challenges in this?
No, it all came pretty simple.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I've done this. This is great. Yeah. Stamped. Done. Yes.
Good.
I think, yes, it's an understatement to say heart challenges. So I could go into so many stories of the heart challenges. One of them would be, for me, the biggest, well, again, there are so many big ones. One of them would be, I recognize that biases, our culture has taught us that biases 100% come with the negative connotation.
Yes.
And so when I would hear the word, I always thought, oh God, I hope I don't have those, And then when I would see them in others, oh, they have biases. And then when I read the book, I recognized we all have biases.
Yeah.
But what was really comforting was we have biases for a reason. It's not that people are necessarily trying to go find a bias to be offensive. We have biases because of our upbringing and our history. And then I realized, like you say in your book, once we own it, then we can make informed decisions regarding what to do.
What are we going to do with
What
that?
are we going to do with these biases? Because initially I thought if we have biases, we're helpless. We're kind of under this mantle of, well, we all have biases and we just got to grit our teeth and do the best we can. Plow through. But I recognize, wow, we can own it, we can acknowledge it, and then make informed decisions regarding, now what do I do with this I can make a decision to build a bridge or burn a bridge. There are choices, but when we have choices, that's liberating.
It is.
And I didn't know that, but I thought biases came with no liberty, And so it's been freeing to be able to sit with someone personally or professionally and be able to, like you said, like hear without trying to fix, because I'm like, we all have our biases. But what it also did for me, Brenda, was I had not talked to an individual in about 8 years. 8 years. And when this person and I reconnected, I recognized I didn't connect with him because of my own biases. And he didn't connect with me because of his own biases. And because we both have kindred hearts in so many ways, alignment of values in so many ways. But what was standing out was what we didn't agree on.
Yeah.
And that separated us for 8 years. Separated us for 8 years. We recently reconnected, maybe since the end of the summer, and I've been intentional to try to listen for what we do have in common and keep the conversation going in that way. And now we're building trust. And if we can build trust in this way, maybe when we have to have a hard conversation, we already have a history of trust.
Wow.
You know?
That's so good. And you are in the process of building
Yes.
this relationship. And
On
it's
purpose.
two-way.
Yes,
Two ways.
it is. And I feel like I keep pulling up a chair for us to sit down. You know, we don't even live in the same city, but we keep having conversation. Like I texted you one day and said, I just talked to him for 45 minutes after 8 years of not talking.
That's amazing.
But I just keep thinking, how can I keep pulling up a chair and not for me, like now there are times I'm thinking, oh, we're both in this text thread. Now I can tell him this or tell him that. And I think, Anita, that's an agenda and you're coming with an agenda.
Yeah.
And so I just keep laying that down. I keep laying it down because if we can build some trust, when we perhaps eventually need to have a hard conversation, maybe we will, maybe we won't, I don't know, but the trust is being laid
That's so good.
so that when he says something uncomfortable, I won't be quick to judge because we have a history of trust, you know?
Yes.
Or if I say something, maybe there's less opportunity for offense because we built some trust. you know?
Absolutely, because I love that. And I love that building that trust between each other, because like we've all seen this. When we don't have trust with somebody and something happens that we disagree with, immediately it's like,
Oh, man.
write
Yeah.
that
down.
off. But when we do have trust and there's a disagreement, we tend to kind of look for the good in that,
Yeah.
or expect the
people the
best at
benefit.
least, right? We
Yeah.
at least expect the best there when there's
Right.
trust. It's like, I know who you are, I know this about you. So there's more here than what I'm sensing.
Right.
Tell me more.
Right.
I love that.
And you know
That's
what's
so
even
good.
what's even more powerful is if, let's say I offend him or he offends me. When there's a history of trust, even if I never get to have the conversation that says, hey, that was just one time you did this one thing, because we have a history of trust, I can let that offense go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm looking for the good. And I don't have to go tit for tat over, you did this and you did this and you did this. No, justify yourself.
Right.
You know, but it's like our trust can cover the offenses, a multitude.
And you really can let them go.
You really can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I can own my biases, acknowledge them, and it's liberating because I can make a decision with what to do with it.
So
And
good.
so, yeah.
So good. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
So powerful.
And yay. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
fantastic.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
So the ownership was really big for me too. Looked a little bit different, but when I got to the place where I could take ownership of my own thoughts, feelings, and actions, and not own other people's thoughts, feelings, and actions, that was just so powerful. It transformed all of my relationships, most notably my marriage. I think in my marriage, a lot of times we would just get hung up on the minutia of like, this is how this happened. No, this is how this happened, and the details.
You did this and I did that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you said this. No, I didn't say that. I said this. And really none of those details matter. And when I go into conversations owning, my own thoughts, feelings, and actions, and realizing I don't have to own hers, we don't have to even agree on the details. I can own what me and my stuff, and come just with a listening ear
To
to
understand.
understand. And put myself in her shoes and get to the place where I can say, oh, well, of course you feel that way.
Yeah.
I see how you interpreted that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for the way that I showed up that caused that, or the way I showed up that made you feel a certain way, right?
Yeah.
And that has changed everything because my agenda is not to win. My agenda is to understand.
That's so
Yeah.
good.
And it's
And when you understand, you do win. You both
Absolutely.
win. Yeah.
because our connection is so much stronger, and there's so much trust. There's so much trust because the intention is to understand. The intention is not to win, and that's changed everything.
That's amazing. Love it. I love it. Transforming relationships. Yeah. So the D, the last letter in loud, is developing new ways to move forward. And really, y'all just shared that. Like when you listen and you own your stuff and you understand the other person. I mean, you both just shared like there's new ways that you can develop new ways to move forward that you didn't even think of before.
Didn't think were possible,
Right.
you know?
And I didn't know that it was possible to approach a conversation and not to get stuck on the details of no, this is how it happened.
It's actually not right. Let me tell you how it really was.
It's well said.
Absolutely not right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So good.
it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything else that you all want to share? I don't want to cut it off, but I
Well, I
love
think-
what you said.
Well, thanks for, maybe final thoughts, but I love what you said just around like how it has impacted your relationship, and I think about how I've had to have tough conversations with the type of position I have in an organization, and whether it's managing up or managing across or, managing down, there are opportunities for conversations to empower people. And I've recognized that I will want to enter into a conversation for positive impact. But when I am caught up in my own assumptions, then I think, how do I enter into this conversation? And so when you've talked about like developing new ways, I recognize that, okay, I'm caught up in my assumptions of why this person did this. And I'm caught up in my assumptions of this will be the end of the conversation. This will be the outcome that we'll receive. And I don't want that kind of outcome. So it's helped me to go in with a disclaimer in conversations going, I'm nervous about having this. I want to go ahead and put that on the table. And then I'll say, and I have this narrative running in my head, and I would love for you to course correct it. And that has empowered them to say, oh, well, let me tell you how I really went. And then I can be on the end of receiving in lieu of going, I already know how I went, but I'm gonna just let them talk, because that's coming with an agenda.
Yes.
But I've been able to just say like very, bluntly, here's my disclaimer. I'm nervous about having this, but I want to tell you something because I'm thinking this is what happened. But I don't know your intent. So I need you to course correct my assumptions. Let's put them to bed.
That's really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And that whole agenda, there's a freedom, there's a power actually in not having an agenda. We think we need that agenda,
Yes, I know, right?
Like when we throw that agenda away and it's like, okay, I really, like you just said,
Yeah.
this is what's happening with me. I want to hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
what's going on with you. You think a conversation's going to go a certain way, but when you do that, it takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
That's like always, pretty much always better than you
Yes.
could have planned it out.
Right. Right.
And because you're hearing, because you're present,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's understanding, because there's trust being built.
Yeah.
And people are always more free to share what's really going on when there's that trust there.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I've started using that in my workplace too, and I lead a team of people, and so I've taught them to use the phrase, "Well, the story I'm making up about this,"
Yes.
and so just like that, because and I've modeled it too.
Yeah.
"Hey, the story I'm making up about this.
Yeah.
That's good.
And-
really good.
And it is the best way to bring up an awkward topic where there's kind of risk because you're seeing stuff and you're like, hey, this is just kind of how I'm seeing it, but it's not putting the blame on them.
Yeah.
It's not accusing them.
Right.
It's like, hey, this is just me.
Right. There's no indictment. Right.
And so it allows for an open conversation around it. It's so powerful. So my team
The
is
story
starting.
I'm making up about this. That's going to be my new phrase.
Oh, come on, Brandon.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. So now my team will come to me and they're like, okay, the story I'm making up about this.
That's so good.
So great.
That's
Yeah.
so good.
All of a sudden the walls go down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before the conversation starts, it's like, okay,
Yes.
we're good here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So fun.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much for sharing these things. They're important. They're important for people to hear. They're
Yeah.
important to me to hear you say it. You know, like it's so just affirming of this message that kind of unfolded. And I'm seeing other people see it unfold in their lives. And that's just really awesome because I believe it has the power to change cultures.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, in families, in businesses, in wherever. If people embrace it, y'all are embracing it.
On vacation.
Started on vacation.
Started on
breaking your own rules.
Yes. Well, thank you because it's impacting. It's life changing, and this is just the beginning though.
Yeah.
Like this is just what the Lord is doing in my current relationships. Right. There are people that I haven't even met.
Yes.
Where your book will impact those relationships. You know, it's true.
So powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As I was reading it, I was like, this is so much of what I'm learning in grad school. And the fact that the public can, actually
Yes.
get this.
Yes.
And because it's ultimately what a lot of the work in counseling is getting to this, right?
Yes.
But the way that you framed it out is just, it's so easy and so simple.
It is. I can't do it if it's not simple. Gotta make sense. Gotta be simple. So, thank you. And thank you all for listening. And I hope that the Loud is Not a Language principles will impact your life too. I hope that you'll be courageous enough to pull up that chair and invite people into conversations that might be hard, and then take the steps just to see how that unfolds in a beautiful way.